Hello everyone! As you can see that today I'm not alone here in this filming session. I have a guest here, Yiran Wang.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And you are from Shanghai.
Yes.
And you have done your bachelor's degree in the University of, Hong Kong Baptist University.
Yes, in sociology.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. And currently you are studying gender studies.
Yeah.
But you have done your bachelor's thesis about what?
My bachelor thesis was about faith and personal decision, specifically on lesbians, women in China, those who having a cooperative marriage.
Perfect. So as you can hear, we're going to definitely come back later to that one
Yeah.
as well. But as you can hear today, we have a special focus on China and very gender-specific issues from China. And to begin with, I would like to discuss a phenomenon that is quite unknown for the Westerners, but is very everyday discourse and a social discourse in China, which is called the leftover women. Could you explain what are leftover women?
I will say that firstly, when the discourse first come out, it regards those who are well educated and those who are career focused women, but who are remain single in their late 20s or early 30s or even more older. But nowadays, with the development of this discourse, it's gradually changed to covering all the women, all the single women who are in their late 20s or early 30s. Yeah.
Exactly, there is some literature also over the topic here as well. And now I'm citing a different kind of stratification and classification of these leftover women. So it starts as early as 25 to 27. So I'm 25, so I would be a leftover woman according to the Chinese society standards. That's a new thing for me as well. But these people, these women at this age group are said to have still the courage to fight for a partner. So that's the first one, and there are 4 in total. The second one is from 28 to 30. These women have limited opportunities for romance because their careers leave them no time for the hunt, and this is specific quoting. And then the third category starts from the 31 to 35. People who are usually done with their education and highly educated, perhaps beginning of their careers, maybe striving to be something out of the careers, and still remain single. And then the last category and the worst, so to say, are the women of 35 and over who are still single.
Yeah.
So they might have luxury apartments and private cars and companies, but nonetheless they became a leftover woman.
Yeah.
So what does this kind of categorization of different ages explain or tell?
Oh, it's like the elder you grow up, and if you still remain single, then the few chance you will have to get married in the marriage market, because from the age perspective, you are not desirable, and from the career perspective, then it's if you are so too career focused, then people will think you are not focused on the family, then you are not preferred also.
I've heard about this joke in China and the Chinese, that there are 3 genders in China. There are men, and there are women, and then there are women with PhDs.
Oh.
So that is quite something to say. So
Yeah.
does that fit also to the leftover women phenomenon?
True, of course, especially those women with PhD, and people would think that they present the image of women who are only focused on their career or their studies, not focusing on their life, and they imagine that they are living a miserable life. For example, they cannot cook, or they cannot take care of themselves better, something like that. And these kind of characteristics of women with PhD are not preferred in the marriage market.
Exactly, and what that tells something about the stereotype, that it's so strong that all the women who are highly educated, they cannot cook, or they don't know how to vacuum clean, and that makes them bad wives in the marital market, which is hilarious, of course. But also in relation to the leftover woman, and women phenomenon, there is this kind of a term of straight man's cancer. Can you explain briefly what is that all about?
Oh, it's online discourse that maybe being noticed in recent years, that describing a kind of heterosexual men who are kind of represent the patriarchy, that they focus on the desirable wife who can take care all of the domestic issues and being tendered and fulfilling the traditional femininity in the society.
And do you refer to that as being the model in the advertisements and the media and so forth?
Yeah,
that they
true.
fit into a very, like, also in their outer appearance,
Yeah,
they fit
true.
into a very certain framework, so to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Okay, so straight man's cancer, and who are the people labeling these patriarchal, objectifying men as having the straight man's cancer?
Mostly would be the women who are not fulfilling those men's standard of beauty, like the women's beauty, because those women are not being labeled as the traditional femininity. They would think that we are living a good life, but we are not necessarily fulfilling what you're gonna take with women, and they create this kind of discourse called straight men. It's because they think those men are not caring as gay men, so it's kind of comparison.
That is a very interesting one. But would you say that there exists also women in China who celebrate that straight man's cancer phenomenon, who are wanting to be empowered and wanting to be not objectified, that would be too harsh to say, but also who would want to have that very traditional setting of man being the head of the family and the woman being the pretty little housewife?
Yeah, true. Because of the social process and being influenced by the society or the ideology, different people would have different different preference on marriage. Some of women would think that they want to be the tender image in the family, and they would like to take care of the family, and they think that's the natural work or natural job of women in the family.
And from that perspective, to jump to another kind of a woman and the stereotype, for example, there are these women in China who are labeled as being the leftover women, but they are celebrating that they are feeling empowered by that in one way. Do these kind of women exist?
Yes, but not that much, I would say. These women would think that they are living a free life and celebrating their independence, and they think they are living a quite good life, they are enjoying it, and being labeled as a leftover woman would not be ideal for them, but they will think remain single is good thing for them.
And it's that kind of reverse power discourse
true.
that is taking place there, that you are trying to make something negative into something positive, to bringing more diversity and multidimensional perspectives there. Okay, so then jumping to another kind of a gendered aspect in the Chinese society is, of course, the one-child policies. You are yourself a product of one-child policies,
yes.
so to say, and so these are the children who are born in the 80s, 90s, and the beginning of the 21st century. And as we all probably know, that the preparation was more towards men, to have a boy child, a male child, to be the blood line carrier and so forth, and to be the provider for the elderly people in the family. But now that has changed also with the different kind of setting in the Chinese society. Can you say something about that?
Oh, I would say that although men are still being preferred to some extent, but nowadays, especially in the city, the gender equality or the gender preference of the birth of child are being quite equal. And sometimes even parents would prefer a girl because as a traditional practice of marriage, that it's supposed to be the man's family who provides all the material things for the wedding banquet. For example, they need to provide the housing, the cars, and other stuffs. But the wife side would just accept these or provide less material things. So it's for the whole family perspective. Then raising a child, a man, a boy, would means that they need to spend more when they get married. So maybe a girl would be more preferred in nowadays society.
It's less pressure in one way.
Yeah.
Could imagine to be. And the one-child policy started to modify in the different directions, starting from the mid-2000s. And nowadays it's more, it is suggested to have 2 children per family.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the things that the one-child policy carried to become out. What was the result of it? Because now these people are adults and in marital ages, and now the ratio for the single women versus the single men is 100 women to 118 men. So that is also something that, how does that fit into the leftover women scenario?
Yeah, that's true. So the reality is the so-called leftover men is more than the leftover women, but the discourse focusing on more leftover women, because I would say maybe people think women are more or easier to be influenced by this kind of discourse to get married, and because the marriage I've talking about is the heterosexual marriage. So this means once a woman get married, a single man become a married man, and in the Chinese society, we will regard a married man more stable than a single man, not only in the family but also in the job market or other.
Exactly. So the whole society is based on these units and elements, which are families, and there are heterosexual families and marital markets, and that also has influences on gay people. Homosexuals, lesbians and gays. And that, now going back to your bachelor's thesis, what can you say about that situation? How do they feel the marital pressure?
Oh, they also feel the marital pressure, but because my thesis was focusing on lesbian women, and lesbian women are not that obvious in the Chinese society, so maybe their parents or their family would only focusing on their single status but not sexuality, and their pressure mostly come from the leftover women discourse, and they choose the cooperative marriage with a gay man to pretend that they are having a heterosexual marriage, actually to fulfilling their parents' expectation on their marriage. To as kind of a way to escape from the leftover women label, but not necessarily about the sexuality. Yeah.
That's quite something. So, as a bridge from there, what can you say about the situation of homosexuals in China today?
I would say that they are not that obvious in the society or in publics, or people start to talking about this topic or talking about homosexual not that often in a daily dialogue, but as long as their family member are heterosexual, not homosexual, then they will have nothing to say about it. They don't care just.
Exactly, as long as it doesn't regard me in
True.
any way, you can have your thing, whatever it is. So it has very negative connotations in many ways.
To some extent. Yeah.
Exactly. And also now talking about other sexual minorities, lesbians and gays are not the only ones. How about bisexuals? How about queer? What's the situation there?
Oh, I would say these categories are even less mentioned in publics. Or some queer, this word, even in Chinese language, are not that mentioned.
It is a very queer word for the Chinese language. We're like queer per se means something strange, something non-conformative.
But we translate in Chinese, but this is not that often mentioned. So I would say people when people talking about sexual minority, they will coming up with homosexual, but not other categories.
Well, do you, for example, happen to have any friends in your social circles back in China who are, for example, bisexual or transsexual?
Yes, I have a friend. She's bisexual. Yeah, but she once talked to me that she's not accepted neither in the heterosexual group nor in the lesbian group, because both of these groups think she belongs to the opposite group. Yeah, she's quite not happy with this situation.
Obviously, it's double discrimination under not being the heterosexual mainstream and neither the homosexuals, which are the subcategories, so to say, in Chinese society. So double discrimination there. Thank you so much, Yiran, for the interview. I hope this was as interesting for you as well as it was for me, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you for watching.